Yep. So it's exciting times, guys. Good to see you. Welcome to the daily co-working call with SpeakerHub.
My question that I have for you as far as podcasts are these guest booking fees or podcasts that are asking you to pay a fee to actually be on them. What's your thoughts around that?
My thoughts are two things. One, most of the time it's better to just pitch another one. You have so many podcasts that are there. Just go on the free ones at first, right? The ones who are usually asking for a fee, a lot of times, 90% of the times they don't have a large viewership. So they're using or they don't have sponsors, so they're using the fees in order to support the production of the podcast, which I don't knock, but I would at the beginning I need to make sure that I'm getting the exposure that I'm paying for, and I would rather go on a podcast that's free and use that money to run ads to my audience, right? Because I would get more bang out of $200 in YouTube than I would giving that podcast to $200 just for the editing that someone else could do for free, right? Now, that's one side. The other side is if you're going to go on a large podcast like Entrepreneur on Fire that can verify that they have 100,000 downloads per episode or 75,000 downloads per episode, that may be worth it, especially if you sell something that can earn you that back. So I had a friend, actually, Ange booked some of our old clients on EO Fire, and I think it was like $3,500 for an interview. But the guy was selling a $2,000 product to train speakers, so he ended up selling enough to cover that, which made him even go on a larger one like Social Proof. The guy I showed you the other day, where we used his website, David
David
Shan,
Shan.
right? I think he has a fee to go on there too. It was like $8,000 or $10,000, but he's gonna get 80,000 views. And if you're selling something that's $2, $3, $4, $5,000, you don't need that many wins in order to make it back. Now, I don't know if that's those guys' official prices today. That's just what I heard their prices were back in the past. So that's my legal disclaimer before any of these guys shoot me a message, even though I know both. You just always gotta, you always gotta protect yourself. But that's how a lot of that works. They'll say it's for the help with production. It's because they're not making enough money, right? I can imagine Good Morning America saying, "Hey, we need to help you. You need to help us pay for this couch cleaning and the cameras we got in here, right?" But at the same time, when you watch your afternoon news and you'll see a 4-minute segment from a financial advisor, they paid for that 4-minute segment to be the official financial advisor of the 12 o'clock news. So both of them happen in the mainstream media too, where there is a pay to play effort on like the hey, this is the official mortgage company of KMOS, channel 8 or whatever. That's that person who's the official mortgage company, they pay for that. Right? But that gives them 2 minutes every day to talk about what's happening in the housing market. Right? So one of our clients, Marvin Mitchell, he does that, and John Cothran, Greg Belger, they've been very good at doing the media in the pay to play spots in the media as financial advisors, right? So I know because I've booked guys on those before when I was working with them. So that happens not only on podcasts, it happens in the regular television media also, and in radio. I've bought radio spots. Everything is for sale, guys. And I think once we come to realize that nobody owes you promotion, everything changes, right? So if you say, look, I know that this is marketing, and we have to say it too at SpeakerHub. We tell people all the time, I can't give you my stuff for free so that you can go get rich. It don't make sense. Like, why would I give you my stuff? I got to pay 30-some employees so that you can go get rich and then say, man, SpeakerHub is dope. They gave it to me for free. No, pay for it. If it's an exchange of value, pay for it. So if you know you have something to sell and you think it'll be valuable to get in front of that audience, by all means, figure out the deal.
Now, if it's something I'm not interested in, what's the verbiage that in that response that I should respond, right? And I mean,
I would respond back and say, you know what, I think this makes sense, but not right now, and then just move on.
Okay.
Right now, let me tell you something that I figured out. Here's why you have to have a product. I get on a lot of podcasts, and you know what I want? You know one thing that nobody ever thinks about? Who's been on a podcast here? Anybody has been on one, right? How many of y'all have a product to sell also, right? Have you ever done an affiliate deal with the podcaster?
No.
Yeah, that's the opportunity. You want them to
Yeah.
email about your episode 8 times this week? Give them revenue on your product. You know that podcast I showed you with, well, I was on one, it had like 120 views, but I sold 70 people,
Wow.
right? Here, let me bring it up. I'll show you. Right? Let me bring up my page here. Go here. So, all right, can you all see my screen here? So let's go, Ron Story, Junior, Pam, Perry, PR, right? So when you look here, you see this here? I got 22 views on that, right? But I think we signed up like 8 or 9 people. But you see, that's our referral link. You see that link that's there?
All right.
She brought all these people on live, and that's her referral link. That's in the thing. It says Pam Perry, right? When we go over to another one that I did with her from months ago, let me find it. Ron Story.
Now, Ron, what is actually on that referral link? Just a dedicated page that you can track or
Yeah,
something?
it's a way for me to track that the lead came from her.
So on the back end, you just duplicate the page and just / whatever that podcast name is or something to that effect?
Yeah, it's a bit more technical than that, but I can talk.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, but you can use like Google Tag Manager or an affiliate program. There's a bunch of affiliate softwares. So we use a particular affiliate software that tracks the transaction all the way through Stripe, right? So you can see this one here. Look here. Look, what do we send them to? pitchdb.com/speakers magazine. We sold 80 something licenses on 160 views. Right? But she had an incentive to make sure people knew about it. So you can turn, if someone has an email list, that could be your ally. Turn them into affiliate partners so that they don't just put the episode out, but they're willing to send that episode.
That's genius.
Huh?
That's genius right there. That's golden.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yo, they got an email list. I need them promoting. What do they want to do? They want to make more money. Right? They want to make more money.
So what, Ron, you have the same arrangement with all of them? You have like a 50-50 split or whatever the arrangement is with each of the...
Yeah, so I negotiate it. If I go on a podcast, I'm usually going to ask them, hey, you got an email list. What can we do partnership-wise so that I can get more exposure for what we're doing? But I know I listened to a few episodes and I just tell them, I listened to a few episodes and see you have no sponsors. Right? I would love to be able to help you to make some money back. I know people want what I have. And I can show them. So that's why I always talk about show your work. I open this joint up. AJ will tell you, I show everybody everything. Right? I show it to them. Because here's what, Ange, do you remember our sponsorship document that we used with Pablo? Do we still have that in the drive? I'm going to show you what I used to do.
I'll take a look.
It may be in my personal drive, but it's a PitchDB sponsorship guide. And that's a good question. I'm glad we talked about this because we were talking about podcasts yesterday, but this is the way I did it. Let's see, sponsorship options, podcast. It was something that me and Pablo used when we were, you remember we wasted all that daggone money sponsoring podcasts? And this was the solution to it. I had to wise up because I lost like $60,000 sponsoring podcasts last year. And I said, we got to stop doing this, but I still want I got to change the risk from my back to their back. Does that make sense? So let me see if I can find this.
Yeah, I don't have it. I just checked.
Yeah, so let's see, podcast sponsor. Can you ask Maria? I know Maria has it. And it
Okay,
may
yep,
be
I'll
in
ask
the,
her.
yeah, ask Maria if she can send that over. Because what that ends up doing is that all right, so I'll just show you the dirty model because I don't have the clean one. But Maria turned this into a book for me, right? And basically, what I would do is I would reach out and I would say, hey, I want to sponsor your podcast, but here are the options that I would like to put together for you, right? Number one is a cost per thousand, which they're standard. That's the standard. They usually get about $20 per thousand downloads. So if they don't have 1,000 downloads, they start calculating like, yeah, I'm only gonna make $13 off of this. So they say, no, I don't want to do a CPM. I'd rather do the rev share. Because then I say, we'll give you 30% on anybody. I'll give you the link. We'll set up your page. We'll do all of that. And we'll give you 30%. So if we end up selling $10,000, you earn $3,000. And that's just hypothetical. But it just puts it in their minds, okay, that's an easy number to calculate. I work with speakers, he works with speakers. He showed me results that he got with other folks. Yeah, I'm probably gonna look at this, right? And then since we did have a service, we said, okay, or if it's a bigger thing, we'll give you services rendered, where we'll get you booked on some podcasts, or we'll do outreach for you. So you can pick 1, 2, 3, or some combination of the other ones. Right? Now I knew what they was gonna pick. You want the bread? Like, I'll just get this. Right? They're gonna always take the rev share. Cool, perfect. So now it's paid for performance. I presented this to everybody, right? And just say, hey, look, I would love to sponsor, right? Because you really want to get on a podcast, just send them an email asking to sponsor. They answer those emails, right? Right? They answer those emails every time. And then you say, well, here's how we should do it. And they say, yeah, let's do the rev share, right? Because again, I will bring up successful campaigns and show it, and they always pick the money. Which means they're gonna promote it even more, and they send it, and I get messages all the time from past podcasters, yo, when can you come back on? As you saw with Pam, I was on there twice. When can you come back on so we can do that campaign again? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, Ron, but when are you actually having this conversation with the podcast host? Because a lot of times, you know, I've been on podcasts and there's not necessarily a pre-call before the actual, you know, session. So are you should you put that in a pitch, or when are you anticipating having this call?
When you send out that email and they say, yeah, we would love to have you on the show, you say, thanks. Also, you know, are you all looking for sponsors? And just let it be.
Looking for sponsors.
Right? But you better have a product to sell. Does that make sense? And it shouldn't be a $3 book. It's gonna be hard to make. They ain't gonna want that. Because they ain't gonna, at Amazon ain't gonna, after Amazon take their part, and then you get your 60% from Amazon, now you gotta get $3 of that to them. It's gonna be hard. Does that make sense? So you gotta have your own stuff. That's why we push about product. So our fall Pro Speaker Summit was about proactivity, because speakers weren't being proactive with their pitching. And we wanted to introduce that, right? Our spring one that happens in April is about the other product. So I'm talking with speakers. We will have speakers that will present that have a product. Does that make sense? Where they make their money from a product, not just from the stage. AJ is one example of that. AJ has a product. He helps people to put on small group conferences. He will teach you how to rent an Airbnb and get 15 people there and make a decent amount of money from doing those on a quarterly basis. You don't need 100 people. You can do 12 or 15. I've seen AJ do this multiple times, get people to fly their behinds all the way down to Columbia to go to a 4-day conference with him. And I've seen him close 80% of the room, right? Like, 80% of the people sign up for the other stuff because they've been with them for 4 days. They've learned, they trust them, they've already traveled down there, they're bought in. Now he just has to be able to close and deliver on the product. So people like AJ will come and show how they use speaking as a way to push product.
Ron, would you happen to have like a copy of or a sample template of the contract or agreement that you use for these kind of relationships?
Yeah, that's why you got to go to that. You got to get you some sponsorship software, right? So affiliate software. So
Affiliate software.
okay. It's called affiliate software. So that affiliate software has the agreements in there. We're not lawyers, so we would never send you all a contract or anything like that. We'll let you do that on your own. We stay in our lane. We're gonna help you to send emails and get meetings. I'll give you some advice on the outside, but I will never send you a legal agreement or anything like that because I just don't want that liability.
I didn't know there was affiliate software available, so I researched that.
Just look up affiliate software. There's a gang of them out there. I mean, there's Rewardful. There's
I put Rewardful's in the chat, John.
Okay.
I just put
Rewardful. There's another one. I can't think of the name of the other one. There's a gang of them. I mean, even if you're using ClickFunnels or Go High Level, it automatically has affiliate software built in.
Got it.
So it's already free. If you're already using ClickFunnels or Go High Level, you don't need to pay for any outside affiliate software. It's already built in. The system where you will be hosting your course. You have a course on Teachable. Affiliate software is already built in. That's why you got to get the product. So when I hear some of the questions, I'm like, okay, they got to get their product on the systems that already have these things. So you're not increasing your expense trying to use something else. Teachable has an affiliate software.
Yeah.
Udemy has an affiliate software. They all have affiliates software built in. And it's included for free. You don't need to spend another $100, right? Kathy, what's your question?
Thank you, man. That was great. Great information. Thank you.
Again, we will only show you what we do. We're going to be up here talking about theory. I'm going to show you real deal Holyfield. So when I say you don't need to go on a big podcast, you don't. If you got something, if you know how to move on that little podcast. But if you don't, then you're going to struggle. You're going to say, man, I've been on a bunch of podcasts. I never got nothing out of it. Cool. Who helped you? Well, no, I just kind of winged it. Cool. Well, that's why you got it. Come on over here. I'll be your wingman and I'll help you to get better. But I'm going to show you what we did and then just follow those same steps. Got it? Kathy, what's your question?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Ron. Hey, Angela. Hey, folks. So I am knee deep in doing the association pitches. Woo! And I think, Ron, for me, I think my head is like swirling. It's like, because there's so much I could, and there's so many verticals. And I'm wondering if you have any really good tips for how to stay organized and focused, because there's so much. And like, if I do leadership, for example, I get a lot of stuff and some of it is not relevant. And I'm wondering if there's like folks that are following like vertical strategies, like insurance, financial. Yeah. Okay. Because I'm just overloaded.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to do a couple introductions. I see we got some new people. Shauna and Belle is here for the first time. Juliana, thanks for joining us. Juliana is on our team. A lot of you already know her. But I want to let Mel and Shauna introduce themselves after I answer this question, Kathy.
Okay.
So here's what I would do.
Yeah.
I think people underestimate the power of referrals. Even though I'm a first pitch guy, I think we underestimate the power of referrals, right? So imagine what city are you in, Kathy?
I'm in San Jose, Silicon Valley.
Okay, so you're in San Jose. There's a bunch of associations in San Jose.
Yeah.
Right? So I would look up San Jose and I would pick an industry. If I want to go talk to salespeople, I'm going to pick financial advisory, realtors, things of that sort, right? And I'm going to go send an email to that group. I think with some of the associations, we even give you the phone numbers if we have them, right? So we'll give you the phone number, make a phone call, reach out, right? And then once you have that meeting with that group, take a list of the other groups you want to go speak at that are in the neighborhood and say, hey, I'm going to be reaching out to these groups anyway. do you mind if I tell them that you and I spoke? Now, you notice I didn't ask for their permission. I told them, I'm reaching out to them whether you answer this positively or not. I just want to be able to say, hey, I met with Angela and your name came up. I would love to talk to you about some of the work we're doing with other associations regarding their stop being boring, right? Teaching leaders how to lead with more charisma, right? I'm Kathy, I'm a comedian, I'm this, I'm that. You open for a quick 5-minute call, right? That would be my follow-up pitch, right? Because now I have this list and I can use that to get in the door. So if you don't have a Dream 100, organizations, conferences, people you want to interview, whatever, you need to make a list of the people so that you can show it to folks.
Yeah.
Right? You know, to go back, one of my favorite, I'm not really big on religion, but I like it from the perspective of it can be a great guide of wisdom. And one of my favorite passages is write the vision and make it plain so that he who reads it can run with it. Right? Now that's really important. A lot of us know what we're doing, but it's not readable to other people and active by the other people. I got to make it where when somebody sees, I gave them the instructions on what to do. Just add water and stir. It should be that simple. I can get a list of referrals by asking them not to give me referrals. How hard is that? Hey, Kathy, I'm going to be meeting with this list of folks. I'm going to be reaching out to them this week. Is there anybody on the list specifically that you think that would be good for me? Oh yeah, John and such and such and such and such. Cool. Do you mind if I tell them we met? No, go tell them. I'm good. They ain't got to pull out their phone. They ain't got to destroy the trust. They ain't got to risk their social capital introducing me because I told them I was reaching out to them anyway. Now, what I don't want to say is, hey, I was speaking to Kathy and Kathy thought that you would be interested in life insurance. I just destroyed both relationships.
Yeah.
Right? So what I would say is, hey, I was in a meeting with Kathy over at the YWCA the other day. Your name came up. I decided I would reach out. Who brought his name up? Me. I brought his name up. That's why his name came up.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. Thank you. That's a great way to do it. Yeah.
So when you get a gig, how do you turn it into 5 other gigs?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't afford to say, man, they're gonna send me some referrals one day. When? No, well, let me give you, and then we'll go to Charles. And I want to do a couple of introductions. I think we lost some folks. We may have lost one person that was here. What I want to do is to give you an example of this. When I was a financial advisor, at which meeting did I ask for a referral? So let me tell you what we did. We met with them the first time and we asked them a bunch of questions. We met with them a second time and we presented the solution. If they didn't take action then, we met with them a third time and they actually invested the money with us, right? And then I met with them 6 months later to see if they were happy with what I did. Does that make sense? So those are the 4 meetings that we did standard. A fact finder meeting, a presentation meeting, a close meeting, and a review meeting. Where did I ask for the referrals? Put it in the chat. Let's see. Where did I ask for the referrals? 1, 2, 3, or 4. Meeting 1, meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4. And which one? Put it in the chat. Meeting 4, AJ. 4, 4, 2, 3. I only got 3 answers. Only 3 of y'all courageous enough to put some. Got to pick. Arain got 2 or 3. Anyone else? Other answers? Okay. Meeting number 1. We asked at meeting number 1.
I said it. I said it.
Right? Do you know, Jasmine, why do we ask for referrals in the first time I met someone?
Well, what I do, in speaking with them, and we're forming a relationship then, and then right away I would say, do you know, this is, I'm not quoting it right now, but I would come out and ask them, they have a friend or family member who's looking to do this. Next time I come back, I'd like to meet them.
But why do we ask? Why did I ask in the first meeting?
Because it takes the pressure off this selling that individual.
Okay.
That's what
Well,
I found.
here's the reason.
You might not see
Because
him.
everybody gets asked in the first meeting. Everybody don't make it to meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4. Right? So I'm quenching my opportunities for referrals by waiting. And the only reason they're gonna come back for meeting 2 is if I provided some value in meeting number 1. So the thing is, provide value up front, just like we talk about on the podcast. Drop the value up front, just in case if the person don't listen to meeting minute 35, drop the gems in the first 5 minutes. Give them your best stuff. How many of y'all bought our course? Yeah, nobody. I give you my best stuff for free every day. I ain't gotta hide it from y'all behind the software. I'm gonna give it to you right here, whether you're one of our customers or not. Does that make sense? So you asked in the first meeting, right up front. And again, I didn't ask them for a referral. I asked if I had permission to tell people that I met with them. I didn't ask for their approval, whether I did a good job, because they don't know yet. I haven't presented anything to them. All I did was a good job of listening. Is this valuable? Do you see the difference? So I can ask for referrals on the first deal. Hey, I'm gonna be reaching out to these folks, right? Do you mind if I tell them we met? No, you can tell them we met. Is there anybody on the list in particular I should be reaching out to, or did I leave somebody off? Yeah, you should reach out to James over at the country club. Cool. What's his name? Boom, just write his name down. I don't need his phone number, because I can find that with social media, right? With LinkedIn, I can find the person they're talking to. I want to make it as easy as possible for them to give me other people. So don't wait. We think we gotta wait. I gotta wait until they like my stuff. Psst. Psst. Okay, watch this. Let me look. Dude, I've mastered referrals, right? I've mastered the art of permission-based marketing. Right? Where do we find this information from? These calls. All this stuff came from these calls. This Karen on this call.
The AI component.
This is Karen on this call. We've mastered getting referrals and getting testimonials from people. Is this making sense? Like we're living it. Right? We needed more testimonials of people. I couldn't wait until you got you met your speaker goal in 9 months, booking 19 meetings from us. No. I can easily ask you, hey, what you thinking about? Any results? That's what that question is. That is a referral question. Hey, any reports of success? Y'all say, yeah, I got booked that. Cool. Hands recorded, we got that one. We got that one. Right? With Les, what you think about SpeakerHub, what we're doing? Oh, I think it's this. Kim, yo, what you think? Man, what you're doing, I wish I had that 20 years ago. Thank you. Let's go. Right? You gotta be you gotta be able to take one thing and turn it into 55. Right? So now, what are we doing now? Which is even super duper duper dope. Let me see if I can refresh the page here. So the co-working thing is popping up now, so it won't show there. But I can show you over on the speaker scorecard. Watch this, score.speakerhub. Look at how we use that. Look in the bottom left corner. So give it about 3 seconds. Boom, look at that. Think that ain't referrals? They just got their score. Cool, that is a referral. That's showing social proof. You think that don't strengthen somebody's, man, somebody did this 52 minutes ago, let me go and do it. I'm already here. Right? So just doing these small things, that's how you generate from one thing into 5. Got it? Okay. Charles, and then I want to make sure we can introduce Shauna. Actually, let's do that first, and then I'll go to you, Charles. Shauna, how are you? Are you with someone's team or are you by yourself as a speaker looking at, oh, you back. I remember you from the other day. Okay, it ain't your
I was
first
gonna
day.
say, I've already introduced myself before. Just new computer.
I don't see the
First
last
day.
names. I be having to err on the side of you being new versus guessing and be like, oh, well, yeah, she's been here before and it'd be a whole new person. So good to see you. Glad you came back. So Charles, what's your question?
Just going back to what John was talking about around the podcast, and you talked about the affiliate marketing piece there as well. And I think we touched on this yesterday when I first joined the group, but the only sort of piece of the product, I want to just kind of delve into that a little bit around the fact that the product I have is my book. And you were just using the example that that's not enough. You need to, or maybe it's not lucrative enough. There's more that I should be bringing to the table. So maybe can you talk a bit more about different types of products could be exploring, what we should bring to the table, et cetera, et cetera.
The question is, what's the goal, right? Are you trying to, is the book a, what do they call it? Like a legacy project where you're like, I don't care if I make any money off of it. It was just something I wanted to do for myself to leave kind of a legacy. And if it doesn't make any money, that's okay. If that's the case, you don't got to do none of this. Just do what you're doing, right? But if you're trying to build a business, you should listen to what we're saying, right? Because you're going to need more stuff to build a business with it. But if you're just like, oh man, I just want to do this because I think it would be great and I want my kids to know and they can always remember dad wrote a book. Cool, just keep doing what you're doing. You'll be fine. You don't need any of this stress, right? But if you're trying to build a business, then let's talk about it from that perspective, right? Then you would want the downloads because you need to build an audience of people, right? You need to build an audience of people that may want to interact with you in some way in the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now, that audience of people doesn't have to be built by you. You can go buy audiences of people. Facebook groups are for sale. LinkedIn groups are for sale. Do you know why we keep the old podcast in SpeakerHub? Why do you think we keep the old podcast, even the ones that don't function anymore? Anybody want to guess?
The numbers, the number of podcasts you have in your database, it keeps the numbers up, maybe.
Nah, that don't help us. That don't help y'all either. If it's a bunch of damn podcasts in there just for vanity reasons. Let's say Charles wants to start a travel podcast. You can actually look up in SpeakerHub Pro podcasts that have been published in 6 months that are on travel and reach out to that person. They already got a bunch of downloaders that are already subscribed to the podcast. Say, hey man, I noticed you haven't published in 6 months. What happened to the podcast? And they say, oh man, I shut it down. I wasn't able to make no money. Okay, how many downloads you got? I get about 400 downloads per episode. Perfect. You ever thought about selling it? Boom, for probably $2,000, you can buy somebody's past podcast history. You just negotiate that they got to do one episode with you to make the transition. So that they say, hey, I want to introduce our new host. Traveling with Jerry would now be called Traveling with Charles, right? And I want to introduce you to Charles. And it's the same group of subscribers, but you're not starting from ground zero building a podcast. Like, we ain't new to this. We true to this. World of Speakers podcast is mine. I ain't built it. I bought it. The Need a Speaker, Be a Speaker group. I didn't build that group. I bought it. The Need a Speaker group. I bought it. If you got a group that you want to sell that work with speakers, call me. I got you. We'll do a deal, a really good one, right? SpeakerHub. I didn't build SpeakerHub. I bought it. I bought the 63,000 customers because it was cheaper for me to buy them than to advertise in Facebook in order to get 63,000 customers. Right? Business is a pro level sport, and I'm still doing it on a low level compared to some folks else, a lot of the other folks. But when we think about, like, it's really just an economic equation as speakers. What do you spend your money and time on? Do I spend my time Googling and searching for emails when I have an option for $200 a month to have somebody just give me the emails? Do I spend my time copying and pasting things from spreadsheets in the chat GPT? Or do I spend my time Just give this person $200. They're already integrated ChatGPT in it. Do I go buy another coaching program? It's going to teach me how to write frameworks and all of this. Or do I just give this dude $200 and he solved all these problems for me? Entrepreneurs are capital allocators. Your capital is money and time right now. Usually we have more time than money, so we spend our time in useless ways. Right? But you got to be able to allocate that capital efficiently. Is this making sense? So that's what our jobs are. So Charles, you got to decide as the author of that book, what do you want the outcome to be? Do you want to build a business around it? Do you want to use it for the cornerstone of a leadership consulting business that teaches leaders how to relax a little bit, and maybe on the backside you do an annual retreat or you do quarterly retreats with leaders and their families? That would be dope. You know who are the most misunderstood folks? People like me who live in this office all day, and my family sometimes thinks I don't care. Right? So somebody needs to bring them with me. They can play with the other kids, they can talk with the other wives, and they can say, yeah, my husband do the same thing. Man, it's a nice house we got. They got to be able to talk them off the ledge to let them know it's okay. He still loves you. He's trying to provide for the family. That's a great retreat to do, Charles. Do you see what I mean? Where you can use that traveling thing as a way to turn that into a leadership product. That's all that I'm saying. Is that fair or no?
It's good. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Jasmine.
Back to referrals and affiliates, why I said number one as well. In between college and between high school and college, my job was selling door-to-door encyclopedia. And you have a field manager and you go out 5 days a week. Because the time I was dating boyfriend, you don't pull it in. You want your weekends off. And they will take you to a remote area. Anyone in Toronto would know London, Ontario. Charles would know about London, Ontario, right? And they'll take you and they'll drop you off on a certain intersection of homes. And I would get excited just by the homes, because the first person that lets me in the house, the field manager was smart enough. It gives you enough money to say, okay, you're going to get into that house and, try to move as fast as possible so that by the time I pick up at 4 o'clock, you have a certain amount of sales to do. Well, I was smart. I had money on me. I get into that first home. I sit down, I introduce myself, talk, play with the kids, do everything you need to do to quiet them down. Then I said to them, I'm going to introduce some educational materials right now. I didn't say encyclopedia. But if you know anyone that lives in the area, a family member or a friend, invite them over and let's have pizza for lunch. Then I get into material. So when my field manager picks me up at 4 o'clock and I have 5 encyclopedia sales, he's freaking out. I did that purely on a selfish thing because, when you have that new boyfriend number one, and I want to spend as much time with boyfriend. So I was able to work maybe just 2 days out of the week to hit my quota, and to spend time with the boyfriend. I could never be a waitress at a restaurant. You know what your strengths are. So this door-to-door encyclopedia worked for me so well that sometimes I say to myself, I could probably go try that now. It was Collier's Encyclopedia.
I don't think encyclopedias exist anymore.
I know.
One
set is a lot of money, but you
Jasmine,
leave the house.
Did your boyfriend ever buy any encyclopedias from you?
No, you didn't buy anything. I know. I should say, if you want me to come see you, you should buy inside. But I come back with my 5 encyclopedia in one shot. Most people do that over 1 week. So, gathering referrals and asking, when I feel you ask because you're building a relationship right there. You're building trust right there. And if you have that stage, why not ask? Like Ron says, you might not need to come back. I didn't need to go back to that house, and I didn't need to work the next day. So just expanding on what you said, Ron.
No, that makes sense. There was a guy who used to sell Bibles, and he was one of the best Bible salesmen in the world. And he was doing it door to door. But the problem was that he had a speech impediment. So he would go up and he would say, would you like to buy a Bible? And, you know, he would struggle with the words, right? But he always sold more. So his manager said, dude, how do you close the deals? He says, when I get there, I ask him, would you like to buy a Bible, or would you like me to read it to you? So if you're selling Bibles or encyclopedias, sometimes you can turn your disability into a superpower. All right. So Rhonda, go ahead.
That was hilarious. Okay, so hi everyone, and Ron, thank you for all of this. I have started the free trial on SpeakerHub Pro that you sent me a link yesterday during the call, and I started there. It doesn't give me access to conferences, and that's really where my focus is. Is there something I'm doing wrong, or is there something else I need to do?
The link that I sent, that I put in the chat yesterday, is because I didn't want, whenever we're on here, it requires you to put in a credit card. And since we're on Zoom, I didn't want people exposing their credit card information. So I just gave you one of my referral links.
Okay,
right?
that's what you
But
said.
that free trial link that I gave you only has 25 pitches. You know, and since you would be reaching out to conferences that are 6 or 9 months out ahead of time, you probably wouldn't book a conference anyway, right? That trial link that I gave you is for you to demonstrate how the system works, get booked on the podcast, have some conversations with the local associations before you decide to make the other investment.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
does make
if you want to upgrade and put your credit card in privately, what you do is you click on your name and then go to settings, and there's a thing that says plans. Or in the bottom left corner, you'll see your number of pitches, which is like 25 or 24. It says get more pitches. If you click there, it'll ask you which plan you want to subscribe to. But for security purposes, I didn't want Miss Holly, Christina Holly, to put her credit card information.
Understood.
Nowadays, people can scam a scam, you know?
Understood. And when I'm not doing it right this second, when I go and click more pitches, will it also give me the information about the lifetime plan?
Yeah, so the lifetime plan, you would have to talk to me privately and I'll walk you through it.
Okay, very
so,
good.
Ann, you can put my calendar in there and I'll walk you through the lifetime plan.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something you have to talk directly with me about, and we'll find out which part works best for you.
Okay, that's great. One other question. I actually have a lot of questions, but I'll just ask this one.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, no, I got a lot.
Today I have one. Let me make sure my calendar is open. So today, the 5th, my next call is at 1:15. So we have until 1:15 today, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to be jumping off early. I have a meeting, but what was I going to ask? Oh, the associations. They seem to be associations, not necessarily associations that have events that are upcoming. Is there any plans to put that into the software?
I don't know an association that doesn't have monthly meetings or conferences.
Okay, very good.
That's part of being the association, is that they have to have meetings in order to have that organized. Does that make sense? So let me walk you through the part of the flywheel, right? So the flywheel is made up of different modalities for you to deliver your message. So I'm going to share my screen with you here, and I want to bring that up. So, and I'll share these docs with you guys if you would like them. So we call this the speaker cycle, right? And the speaker cycle talks about what should you expect from each type of event. Does that make sense? So if you're looking at podcast, right? You'll probably get booked and have that podcast published in 2 to 4 weeks. You'll hear back from someone, you'll record it, it'll be out the next week or 2 weeks. So it's 2 to 4 weeks time frame on that. It's going to take some time to prep, research, outreach, follow up, nurture. This is if you're not using our system. We cut this in half if you're using our system, because the research and the follow-ups and all that don't take you 2 hours. Does that make sense? But this is without SpeakerHub. For local association gigs, right, it's the same thing, but they're gonna be 4 to 6 weeks out. So they probably already have their speaker for this month in February, but they don't have the one for March. So you would be looking at a March or an April date. So that's 4 to 6 weeks away after you've made contact. Does that make sense? On the larger speaking gigs that most people like, that's probably going to be 3 to 6 months ahead of time. The speaking gigs for the first quarter of 2025, they had already booked those speakers in the fall because they got to start marketing the event, right? So one of the things that we run into a lot of times is, and this is just in general, oh, well, I reached out to a bunch of speaking gigs of conferences inside of SpeakerHub, and I didn't get anything. And I'm like, okay, which ones did you reach out to? Well, I need a gig next month. Well, yeah, you're just misguided. Because you could send 1,000 emails to conferences that happen next month. You probably wouldn't even get a reply because you're in the wrong season. The seeds got to be planted way before the harvest comes, right? And then the articles, that can take 4 to 6 weeks. That's when you pitch a magazine, right? To become an editor, or to become a contributor for that magazine. Now, why do we tell people to do all 4 simultaneously? Because while you waiting on that conference, you probably should be on some podcasts working on that message. If you got the conference gig booked, you probably should be taking that gig, that speech to the stage on a smaller level. If we think of Chris Rock and every other comedian, they go on these little small comedy house tours, working on the act before they hit the stadiums. They don't go straight from their brain to the stadium. He goes to the Laugh Factory and a little bitty place where you can get booed off and find the jokes that work. He probably works through 300 jokes over a 3-month period to find the 50 that work. Right? I got a lot of examples of frameworks, but I only bring the ones to the stage that I know work. Because I've tried some, I'm like, oh, that didn't go over well. Can we fix that? Let me try this over here. Let me ask someone else. And we work on these things to get them right. That's what this local association thing is about. And you're going to get clients from that gig. So you're not speaking here for the fee. You're speaking there because the audience is full of the people that can buy your products, services, consulting, or maybe bring you into their corporation for a speaking gig. This is where you get the corporate gigs. Here's what I'll tell you. This is the funniest thing ever. The people who speak the most, they usually don't have a speaker course because they don't want to compete with them. Let me just be real with you. They usually don't have a course a lot of times on how to get gigs. They have a course on leadership or something like that, but they're usually not going to be training speakers. So I'm going to use Ross as an example. Ross is a killer. I'm talking about killer, right? Ross did 133 gigs last year, and he documents every single one of them, right? Let me go to, on his page, him and his wife have a photo of them at gig 132 and 133. But I want to share this so that you can see, and I want to show you the audiences that he's in front of. There's a picture of him and his wife on the side of a mountain, right? Just like that, gigs 132 and 133 are officially in the books. Ross, if you want to hear him speak, we had him at the Pro Speaker Summit back in October. Ange will put the link in here. If you want to hear him talk about how he does this. But he is an association killer, right? This ain't thousands of people. That may be 200 people in that room. But that's at Redbird Corporation at their contractor conference, right? This is a small room, BGM. That ain't a lot of people. Right? This is him doing something at Spotify. This is a corporate gig at 3M. This is at the Medina Country Club. That's 13 people. But yet we too big. You ain't bigger than Ross. But then he has these also, where he went to the Minnesota State Track Coaches Association. Right? So again, he's in front of a room full of prudential advisors. That's 30 people at the most. But he's back in a bigger room. Again, these little rooms turn into bigger rooms. You know, it's like a professional basketball player. LeBron, yes, he plays at the Staples Center, but he also plays at Lifetime Fitness every once in a while when ain't a bunch of crowd there. Kevin Durant playing anywhere. He don't care. He'll play outside at the Rucker Park, at the basketball goal in the back of the local high school. Hooper's gonna hoop. Andrew tell you, Andrew, professional basketball player, Hooper's gonna hoop. So the stage time is what's lacking.
Now, Ron,
Right.
did you mention we can get a copy of that document you just shared?
Yep, I'll get that to you for sure.
Cool, that'll be valuable. Thank you, man.
The stage time is what's lacking. So let me share with you the next part of this really quickly. Because if you know what stage you're gonna be on, you know who pays. So if you're doing something virtual, it's probably gonna be for you probably gonna sell your individual products in a virtual event. If you're doing something live, it's probably gonna be corporate or group products. I'm gonna go and do a workshop. I go do the local association. I can sell corporate training to the people in the audience. I can get a gig at their spot. Maybe they'll come together and they'll do some. I got other stuff to do at this in the live events. And then my media is just reinforcing and generating more leads. Going on podcasts, all these other things. Is this helpful? Right? So now, what do we do? Well, what type of product should you create? Boom. So I'll give you the links to all of these docs, guys, right? But here's the cool part. You got to know what role the person plays that you're talking to. If you're a speaker and you're one of my potential customers, you're all three. You're the owner, you're gonna make the decision, you're gonna take the responsibility for the decision to work with SpeakerHub. You're gonna pay for it out of your checking account and you benefit from it because you get gigs. But when you go talk at a corporation, is the person that's booking you paying you, or is the corporation paying you? The corporation is going to be the payer. The person who's booking you is owning the responsibility for bringing you in. They're putting their job on the line. But who benefits from bringing you in? The employees. You see how all three of those are separate. So sometimes we're talking to the owner who's just worried about losing their job or being embarrassed if you're not as good as you say you are. We're negotiating with them. They don't care about the money. They ain't even paying for it. This corporate money, they told me I got $20,000 to spend on speakers. Right? They told me I got $8,000 to spend on speakers. I ain't negotiating it. They ain't paying for it. I got to convince them that I'm safe. I got to give them event planner insurance and talk about how it's going to benefit the audience. Is this making sense? So you want to know these things. So how do you enhance what you're doing? We give you all these other things here, right? But this is the main point is understanding the stage that you're pitching and who makes the decision at that stage, right? That's why Bart's simple outreach of, hey, are you the person that's in charge of deciding speakers? He's just trying to find the owner. He don't care whether they paying for it out of their pocket or who's paying for it. Hey, are you the person that can own this responsibility of bringing me in? He gets to that right off the bat. And then he hops on the call and he finds out, okay, who do I need to make this for? Who's benefiting from my message once we're on the call? And now I know who's responsible for it. I know who the stakeholders are, who benefits. Now we can talk about pay. Because I can build my entire case now for why these people need what I have. But if I do that out of order, and I'm talking to the wrong people about the wrong things, the deal never gets closed. Let me give you a great example. I was a financial advisor. Oh, I don't even have to give you that one. Give you one right now. A guy tried to sell me YouTube training about a year ago. One of my friends said, hey, man, you should get my YouTube training. And I said, cool. I'm never gonna watch it. I told him, I'm not gonna watch it. You need to talk to Raymar. Raymar does all of our YouTube stuff. He said, no, but I think it'll be really good for you. deal lost right off the bat. I already told them who the owner was. I'm just the payer. Do you see what I mean? I was just the payer in that situation. The person that was going to make a decision on whether it was a good program or not was called Raymar. That's her name. The beneficiaries is our audience, our clients. Y'all get to benefit from the things that she would have implemented. But he was trying to sell the person that wasn't going to own the responsibility for the decision. Juliana, Ray, everybody in our team, they can pitch me any software because I'm just the payer. I don't even want to know how it works. Don't even tell me how it works. You need it? Cool. Does that make sense? So, but Bart, go ahead. So we got to know who we're talking to, the payer. We need to know the owner who owns the responsibility, the payer who's going to write the check, and the beneficiary. They can be all three people, but they're not always all three people. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, I was just going to ease people's minds about the approach of this is who I am, this is the problem I solve, this is how I do it, my unique proposition value. That's kind of all I said. I would just say in that approach, the right person, or more importantly, the professional that's receiving it understands that. Now you cut out all the fluff and they respond faster, like, okay, let's set up a call. Okay, how much? I've had people say how much and just on email. We haven't talked face to face yet. So I would say that if you're afraid of that method of bottom line up front, it works because it cuts through. It's the lean method, and the professionals on the other end understand that more than you think.
Yeah, successful people are confident, right? You think of the most successful people you know. Boy, their confidence is through the roof, and it ain't fake, right? Their confidence is there, so they're like, "Look, let's just be direct," because they've dealt with people at that level before. They're just like, "Yo, are y'all looking for speakers? Cool. What's the price? Either we got the price or we don't. Let's negotiate." But the person isn't trying to prove who they are. Does that make sense? Right? I think I'm a great example of that. I'm not on here trying to convince y'all should listen to me, because I got 63,000 other people that need my help. And I believe that. But I give you my best stuff so that you can say, well, I probably should. This is lining up. Yeah, cool. What else have you done? That's usually the thing. What'd you do before this? Then they want to know about my background because the goods are already there. I'm not saying, look, you got to listen to me. I promise you guys. No, here's the results. Decide for yourself. If not, leave. We're cool with that, right? Because the winner's going to win. It's not a surprise that y'all show up every day and y'all on the leaderboard. Winner's going to win, baby. It's just how it works. You know, we see the people in here on the leaderboard because y'all are the ones who are doing it and getting booked. Right? Charles, question.
Yeah, can you talk a bit about the publication piece? You talked about it yesterday about getting sort of writing publications. I don't know how that relates to the SpeakerHub Pro and getting access to that, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So you already have access to the publications, right? So here in your SpeakerHub Pro account, let me bring it up here. Here in your SpeakerHub Pro account, it says media outlets on the left. Right? And media, when it says publications, these are editors. They make the decision on who's going to be a writer. When it says journalists, these are the people that would write about you. Does that make sense? This is the journalist that may get a quote from you. This is where you want to be a writer for that publication. Right? So that's already in here. You already have that. For those who are paid members, if you're paid, we used to limit it to lifetime members only over at PR Pitches. But if you are a paid member of SpeakerHub Pro, we will let you into our group called PR Pitches. Right? And in here, this is where Kamanzi, who's the master of this, Alejandro Rojas, is on the front page of Essence this morning. Right? These are our customers. We get them booked. This is what Kamanzi is responsible for. He's better at magazines. I'm better at stages. It's like a no-lose situation.
So he's responsible for helping you get connected to the different publications, or
Well, we give you the publications already in
Yeah.
SpeakerHub Pro, right? All these people are doing, all Alejandra did was come in and type in Essence,
oh, okay.
right? And she reached out to Essence,
Got it.
right? That's all she did. She came in, she reached out to that person. That's how it works. And here's the response. Right? So this is, so we're gonna give you the goods. We're gonna give you the best part. Now, here's the cool thing. We got that Facebook group for PR pitches. We have a school community for PitchDB, which is our podcast version of this. Was on with Gustavo today. We're almost there for the speaker launch formula courses and the community for SpeakerHub. So imagine having the community where you can go in and watch these old ones, old episodes, but also you can post your wins, right? You can see what other people are doing. Now, let me ask you this. If Essence had a conference, what's the maximum number of speakers that can speak at that conference?
Like 10. If
Yeah.
you're not breaking out, to like small working groups or whatever. So
let's say 10, right? Let's bump it up to 20. How much internet space do they have for contributor articles?
Less than half?
unlimited.
Unlimited. It's the internet.
It's cheaper.
It's free. You can post as many blog posts as you want. Ain't no limited time frame for the stages. They can post as many articles from contributors as they can afford to post. Why? Because each one of those articles are profitable. They got ads on those articles and different things like that. That's why they pay. So everyone is going for the stages to establish their thought leadership, but in reality, the easy money is in the associations and the articles. That's why I showed you Ross. You see, Ross is the association killer, like Trey Songz. They need to call him Ross Songz because he is the radio killer. Oh no, that was The Dream. The Dream was radio killer. Radio killer. Yeah, Ross is the association killer.
So I got a question. Jasmine, I know Jasmine's hands up. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Don't matter.
But so like if you write an article, if you get an article and you write it in Essence or whatever publication that you want, and you're also you like regularly doing blog posts on your website, should you use the same article?
You
No,
can't.
don't do that. Can't have duplicate
It won't
content.
let you.
Right.
Not only will Google do that, cause a problem, but Essence will cause a problem with you.
Right, because you're giving the rights over to whatever publication, right? So
Yeah,
I
that's why
just
they
wanted
gave
to
you the
make sure
money.
that was clear. Yeah.
Yeah, they gave you the money. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Right. They bought it. They own it now. Yeah.
Right.
And Ron, I know we're past it, but Maria I just forwarded you that podcast, the podcast sponsorship document from Maria that has design attached to it. Maria found it.
What did you send it?
I sent it to you on WhatsApp.
All right, cool. So here, let me show you the real one. 1 second here. Open with preview. Close my WhatsApp. All right. So here's what we used to remember, that 1-page document I showed you when it wasn't organized. Here's the pretty version. Right. And we just broke down the same thing. We just made it look good. Remember, first impressions. So a lot of stuff I map out in what we call stick figures, which means a Google Doc or me drawing something, and then I let them go put the makeup on it. But it's the same words that was on that one doc. Right? But all she did was just make it look better. Right? And I gave them my affiliate link because I knew they would want it. There's the newsletter sponsorship. If they remember, I'm going on a podcast, but I really want the newsletter. Does that make sense? So that's how this works, right? So just have someone put a little basic thing on it and then save it as a PDF. You ain't got to go spend a bunch of money having somebody design something. Just make it look good. Put your logo at the top, save it as a PDF instead of as a doc so they can't edit it, and then you're good. Just make it look good. Y'all know how to do it, right? But hopefully this has been helpful, guys. I got 5 more minutes before my next meeting. Any questions about what we talked about today? We covered a lot, and it was mainly a part 2 of the conversation about podcasts. So yesterday we talked about how you got to get your stories down. You got to have that 20-second version, the 1-minute version, and then the 3-minute version, right? And one of the great things about when we started off the day, there was who started off with the story? Was that John?
It was Sean.
John told, what was the story about again, John?
About my uncle's deal. Yeah, that,
living in South America.
Yeah, your uncle living in South America. Did you see how he followed the format? He said, man, I want to tell you about my uncle that lives in South America. That was his 20-second version. And then we was like, what happened, right? And he went a little bit more. He said he traveled and he'd been to all these places, blah, blah, blah. And we hooked at that point. Boom. And then when he let the punchline go, it was right there. It was 3 minutes, under 3 minutes. But he told a succinct story that hooked us in, that made us say, well, what happened? Your uncle lived in South America where? We didn't realize it was Alabama, Florida, Mexico, right? That's how you tell a story. I wanted to mention that earlier, but he did a great job of telling a great succinct story that we all remember, right? So remember, that was the first part that we covered yesterday. How do you tell the right stories on podcasts? What we covered today was how do you make some money from these things? A lot of us are going on podcasts with nothing to sell. You got to have a product on the backside to monetize it. You know, let me give you the frame. Charles, if I said, hey, I got 100 people that are interested in what you're talking about, and they have the money to pay for something that will help them to make it easier to get to their goal of traveling. You want to talk in front of them? What would you say?
Yeah. What the message is in terms of what I would say to the, in terms of the
Would you say yes or no?
Oh, yes.
It's called a podcast interview. But you wouldn't show up to that live room unprepared without a product or some way to make money. But we show up to podcasts. It's a referral call. A podcast interview is a referral to their customers. It's a referral call. Right? A lot of y'all didn't know what AJ did, but I mentioned it. That's me saying I trust AJ's stuff enough to talk about it. When I brought Ryan Brady on to talk about what he's doing with TEDx, I trust what Ryan is doing enough to let him talk to my people. When we brought Ross, we did the interview with Ross and all the other speakers, Kim Coles and Les Brown and Israel, right? When we brought them on, it's because I trust them to bring them in front of my people. Those were referrals. They didn't fumble. They understood the assignment, as they like to say, right? Because when you get a referral, if I got 100 people for you, you're like, man, let me get ready for this. I got to make sure if I can just get 7 of them, I'm good. But man, that podcast only had 100 downloads. Are you out of your mind? Gave you 100 referrals and you threw them in the trash because you weren't prepared. That's all I'm saying. Got the world in your hands, right? But preparedness is what's important. So now you know how to prepare your stories, work on your product. I'm going to be pushing product. That's all we're going to be talking about until after the summit. And then we're going to go into my next PRO, right? I got another one after that, right? So this is the year of PRO summits, right? So proactive was the first one. This one is around product. So this is what you're going to be hearing from me for the next 2 months, because we got to get y'all products up.